the gun goes as the last of the World Championships in Oslo, Norway gets underway. Again, another massive field for the professional world title on the road. 171 riders from 30 nations. All of the championships here have been so well supported by the countries. And so as the riders move out, we'll have a look at the map that they face. The same as for the amateur and the women's races, except the professionals do 14 laps of the 18.4 kilometre circuit, 257.5 kilometres in all. And the race got off just like with the men's amateur race. This is on the first lap, and a crash to Gert-Jan Teunissen of Holland. And the fear was that the roads would be too slick under the conditions of the day. And now look at this, another pile-up on this very, very fast descent indeed on lap number 3. And among the fallers here, riders from Italy and the United States. The rain continued, and then came the most serious crash so far. This was the crash to Philippe Louvio, the former champion of France, who was taken away to hospital. They continued on lap number 5. Jean-Francois Bernard, once a third-place finisher in the Tour de France and a leader of that great race in great pain. But one rider who gave up on the spot was the 1986 world champion, Moreno Argentin. And clearly a leg injury for Argentin, who was also taken away. So to lap 6, and still the riders fell. This time it was the champion of Belgium, Alain van den Bosch. And for him, a broken shoulder was diagnosed. And so the race has moved on to lap number 9. And still they were having difficulty with the slippery surface. A German rider fell, looks like Olaf Ludwig, and going down with him was Eric Decker, second in the Olympic Games last year. And then the most serious crash, at least potentially the most serious crash, came when Raul Alcala from Mexico went over the barriers and onto the tram tracks. Happily, he was okay. 2 laps to go. The defending world champion for the past 2 years, Gianni Bugno, retired from the race. And the bell goes for the final lap in this extraordinary World Championship, which really has been a war of attrition. And now it could be a fairy tale ending for Norway, because Dag Otto Lauritzen is out on the attack. And there's plenty who want to see him win too. King Harald of Norway, who today celebrates his 25th wedding anniversary. And we were told because of that the sun would shine. Well, they were wrong in that point at least. But these championships have been so well organised here. Dag Otto Lauritzen now trying to round them off with a gold medal for Norway. He's got the ability. Frans Maassen has joined him, so too has Olaf Ludwig. Ludwig was the 1988 Olympic Games champion before he turned professional. And Lauritzen wants help from Frans Maassen. But what is left of the main field in this race is not very far behind at all. Well, what a fairy tale ending it would be now if Dag Otto Lauritzen could take gold for Norway. The Norwegian riders in this race have spent so much time on the attack. They deserve success today. And it's a good season for Dag Otto as well. A stage win in the Tour of Spain, a stage win in the Kellogg's Tour of Britain, where he won in the city of Coventry. And Frans Maassen in the orange jersey there for Holland, the other rider at the back. And that is Olaf Ludwig. Well, this has been such a difficult course for the professional riders today. Oil on the road, which has not been helped by the torrential rain at times. The rain has not stopped today, and the riders have now been in it for 7 hours. Well, the best part of 7 hours anyway. Dag Otto Lauritzen, who was in the lead, he was joined by these other 2 riders, Ludwig in the white and Frans Maassen behind. And with the help of these 2, can he now hold off the rest of the field? He'd stand a real chance in the sprint finish. Let's have a look at the chasing group. There they are now, reforming behind him, and the Italians are getting themselves back to the front. They've had a rough ride today. There have been many of them on the floor. Gianni Bugno, the defending champion, is out at the end of lap number 12. So too, by the way, is the Irishman Stephen Roach, the world champion in 1987, who was riding today his last World Championships before going into retirement at the end of the year. And these were the sort of conditions, at least at the start, when Stephen won his world title in Villach in Austria back in '87. But at least the sun came out for the finish. But that doesn't appear to be the case now. The rain is still coming down, and if anything, it's heavier than ever. Olaf Ludwig out of form all year, but now hoping it's come at the right time. And these three riders now making the climb for the final time up towards Ekberg. Well, it didn't seem a long climb first time up, but now they've climbed it 14 times. I should imagine those legs are aching. And they're not away at all, because there is that group coming forward. And this is going to be a disappointment for Dag Otto Lauritsen, a former stage winner in the Tour de France. He would have deserved the world title, because back in 1990 in Japan he seemed set to win it when he was brought down by a Belgian rider so close to the finish. And he felt that was the day he would have been world champion, and I'm sure a few minutes ago he might well have thought the same. But look at this, the group is closing up behind them, and in fact there's a rider gone. I think Lauritsen has flown. Lauritsen has gone, he's taking his chance, and Dag Otto has gone on the climb, so he's still got the strength. There is no reaction from Frans Maassen at all, and neither, as he looks over his shoulder and might well say to Ludwig, come on, give us a hand here. But there's nothing left in the legs of Olaf Ludwig either. Look at the gap, and all of Norway are shouting themselves hoarse. This is a fantastic performance by Dag Otto Lauritsen. He knows his king is watching him now. He's on home soil. He could be finishing off the centenary of the World Championships with a first ever gold medal for Norway. Well, it would be a fairy tale. Come on, Dag. Dag Otto Lauritsen looks over his shoulder, the gap is there. If he can just get over the climb, there's one small climb still to come to Ekberg. And in fact, in second place there now, that was Lance Armstrong. So the situation at the front, Dag Otto is alone, Frans Maassen and Lance Armstrong is chasing, and the group are not far behind. So the World Professional Championships are in their closing stages. This is the chasing group. Dag Otto Lauritsen is the rider in the lead, but this group being led by Gert-Jan Teunissen in orange, and just off our picture to the left was the pre-race favourite Maurizio von Driest. But it's the Norwegian rider Dag Otto Lauritsen. This is how he made his attack earlier on the climb, but right now he is about to be joined by these two riders. And Lance Armstrong of the United States is going across to him, and Frans Maassen has come back to the lead again. Well, I don't know how Frans Maassen found the legs there. He was in trouble when Dag Otto attacked, but now Dag Otto checks out who's come up. He's going to see the stars and stripes of the American champion, Lance Armstrong, coming to the end of his 21st year next month. And with him is Frans Maassen, probably the most experienced rider, at least when it comes to wins in this leading group. And Maassen again attacks. And in fact, Dag Otto could not respond, and it's been left to Armstrong, but Dag Otto has got back in again. Well, I'm not surprised that Lauritsen is feeling the pace. He's put a lot into that attack, which has been so far has failed because of these two riders coming up. But now they're over the climb, and still the rain comes down. And they look across, because these are three very nervous riders indeed at the end of what has been a very difficult World Championship for them in atrocious weather conditions. They look to the right there, they will see that there is a chasing group, and in that chasing group is Miguel Indurain of Spain, the winner of the last three Tours de France. And there are a number of riders who want to be up in this group and make the decision in the city of Oslo at the finish. And this is the French rider Gérard Rouet, so often a second-place rider but never a champion, and now he's going like a train to try and reach those three leaders. Well, it hasn't been France's day so far. They've lost Philippe Louvio in the crash right out at the beginning. Other riders have fallen too, like Jean-Claude Colotti. They've also given up, and in fact the French team has diminished to almost half of the original starters because of bad luck. But now Rouet trying to put matters to right. He's taking a risk on this downhill. And this is the part which has claimed one or two fallers today. And the riders approaching the final climb now up to Ekberg. And once to the top, it's all downhill to the finish. Those three are through, chased by Rouet. This is all that is left now, in with a chance of a gold medal. Indurain is in that group. So too is Bjorn Ries of Denmark, just sticking onto the tail. Now, Armstrong has gone, because these are the other riders. And there is Armstrong, he's attacked. Lance Armstrong has attacked right at the base of this climb. The last chance for Armstrong to go. Well, you know, I really would have thought Armstrong could have finished off these in the sprint, but he may not have felt that confident because he's gone. Now, has America found a successor to Greg LeMond, the former world champion and 3 times winner of the Tour de France, out of this race through sickness and injury, and back home in the United States? And Lance Armstrong, a professional for just a year, because 1 year ago, almost to the day, he was competing as an amateur rider in the Barcelona Olympic Games, and now Maassen is trying to counter the move. Rouet is countering Maassen, and I really don't know where Dag Otto Lauritsen is finding the strength now. He must be so tired, because he put in that marvellous attack, the elastic has broken, and Dag Otto Lauritsen, sadly for Norway, has lost ground on these two. But Rouet, having just contacted with the leaders, is finding he's having to do all of the chasing again, and there's only one rider left in front of him, Lance Armstrong of the United States, the USA champion who won the title in June this year in Philadelphia, and at the same time picked up a check for $1 million, so life as a professional in his early years has not been too unkind to him. As he comes to the top of the climb now, Armstrong going for gold, being chased by Gerard Rouet of France. On his wheel is Frans Maassen from Holland, and coming back yet again is Dag Otto Lauritsen of Norway, and this is the face of Miguel Indurain, also bringing back the rest of the remnants of this great championship. Bjorn Ries, and this rider at the back gritting his teeth is Olaf Ludwig, who is in the move a little bit earlier on. He's not out yet. The top of the climb here at Ekberg. As we look down on a crowd who has stood very bravely here for more than 6 hours to watch this championship today. What a contrast to the women's and men's amateur race titles yesterday in glorious warm sunshine. Now it's rather cold rain, and it is still the American rider Lance Armstrong who is setting the pace. It's all downhill to the finish in Oslo now. Will this young man in his first World Championship wrap it up with a gold medal? And so, as we are now over the top of the final climb in the Men's Professional Championship, Lance Armstrong of the United States is still clear, but only just by a group behind, which is reforming. And the man who is causing a lot of troubles in the chase group is the Spaniard Miguel Indurain. But the man who has caused them all some uncomfortable riding in these last few kilometres is Lance Armstrong of the United States. And this is a magnificent performance, there's no two ways to say that, of Lance Armstrong. He's now taking off his hat and his glasses and getting down to the last few kilometres to the finish. Well, yesterday his mother said this was the course for her son Lance. She's come all the way over from Texas to watch him win, and I don't think she's going to be disappointed. But it's still a very tenuous lead indeed. But these riders have been flat out now for a couple of hours, and I really do feel that there's not much left in any of them. Armstrong has leapfrogged his way to the lead. The last rider he caught was Frans Maassen and Dag Otto Lauritsen. He's left them now. There's the group just behind him. And this group is thinning as well. The Italians, who have tried so hard to control this race today, but they've never had the opportunity because of all the crashes. And this is the point where most riders have fell on the descent back into Oslo. It is absolutely treacherous, and just look how precariously now Lance Armstrong is taking this descent. And I don't blame him. This is the crowd who have watched most of the action today on the wrong side of the World Championship, on the floor, and Armstrong coming round very delicately indeed. He knows that once he swings round to his left and he climbs back onto the top road, this championship could well be won. We'll watch the time gap as it starts on the screen. Armstrong is through. He'll go over the top of the picture there as he makes his way now towards the finish. He's about 4.5, 5 kilometres from the line. And again, the chase group here, equally precarious on that left-hander, and it's getting a little bit bigger. There's riders coming from the back, and I'm counting 11 riders in this chase group now, and Dag Otto Lauritsen of Norway is still there. 20 seconds is the time gap. Dag Otto is still finding the strength, and no doubt inspired by the fact he's racing his first world title on home soil. And so the former policeman from Norway, he lives around about 350 kilometres away from the city when he's home here, but he spends most of his years racing in Central Europe. But this is the man who's grabbed the limelight now, Lance Armstrong. He rode his first Tour de France this year and won a stage at Verdun. And then as they entered the Alps, he was pulled out of the race by his team and told to recover. And my goodness me, that's turning out to be a marvellous decision, because now Armstrong is riding to the world title. but there's still riders here trying to stop him, and again there's been a counter-attack from this group. This group is slowly swelling once more at the front. Johan Museeuw, number 34 there, from Belgium, former champion of Belgium in fact. Miguel Indurain in the white jersey, and now joining them here is André Schmiel. And Schmiel has turned in one or two good riders, especially when he used to race in the colours of the Soviet Union. But now we're heading down towards the city, and Lance Armstrong, having made this approach every lap for the last 6 hours, knows exactly how much he's still got to do before he can pull on his first ever rainbow jersey. Number 116 is Maurizio Fondrier, so he's come back as well. The pre-race favourite, who is having a tremendous season, leading in the World Cup competition, 17 wins already. That's why he became the big favourite to win the world title here. He's never had a happy race at all today. And now, just as he gets to the front, he finds one man has flown. Armstrong, now heading in towards the finish in Oslo, and the greatest win of a very, very short career as a professional. He was 14th in the Olympic Games, and that to him was total failure. 1 year ago in Barcelona, the next day he was a professional. Before the end of the season, he'd already won a professional race. In fact, he'd won more than one. Now somebody has gone from this group, and they're all watching each other. A rider has gone clear. Frans Maassen is looking for a little bit of help. Now this is the sort of mistake that will lead to the silver medal going up the road. As one rider begins the chase down, Lance Armstrong doesn't know what's going on behind him, except he knows he must keep pedaling as quickly as possible. We're now entering the port of Oslo again, but this time for the final time. And so Lance Armstrong now is on the run-in to the finish of the World Championship, but he's being chased now very hard indeed by Claudio Chiappucci of Italy. This race isn't over yet. Lance Armstrong now approaches the pits for the final time, 2 kilometres from the finish, and his first ever championship of the world. He can't believe this. He just makes the effort and he checks out to make sure they're not catching him. He is enjoying these last couple of kilometres of what has been a terrifically hard race in these terrible conditions. But Armstrong now mustn't make any mistakes on these treacherous surfaces as he runs round the back of the port before he makes the final turns for home. The rest of the race is almost together. There's still one rider just out in front. Giovanetti is the leading Italian here. But there's still a rider up in front from Italy as well. And I think it's Claudio Chiappucci, in fact, who's got the lead in second place. So the little Italian, who is reported to be absolutely flying in training on this course a couple of days ago, is trying for silver once again, but I don't think he's got any chance now of catching Lance Armstrong. And this chase group has found fresh legs as well. There's Armstrong, the last little climb. He never even felt that as he makes the right-hander now, followed by another right-hander. He's inside the last kilometre to the finish. This is a turn-up for the Bucks now. Greg LeMond out through injury, and America are all set now to toast a new successor. And it has been a tremendous season for him. The United States Championship, the first ever cyclist to win $1 million in 3 straight races in June. And then he went on to win a stage of the Tour de France. He finished 3rd in the Tour of Sweden. And now he's all set to win his first ever championship of the world. He's checked out, he's still at least 500 yards to go, and he's going to make the most of this. But he's not making the mistake of letting anybody creep up on him. He checks, he waves, he salutes his audience, and then he checks again. Lance Armstrong is going to enjoy the finest moment of his life, and why shouldn't he? He deserves every minute of this. It is a beautiful victory for him. The American that suddenly realises, yes, it's mine. I am the champion of the world at the first attempt. But remember that behind, the field is closing in. There are 10 riders now in a group. And Lance Armstrong, yes, he's the champion, but the race is now on for the silver medal. And this is Johan Museeuw leading it out. On the left of the picture is indeed Miguel Indurain, who's not normally such a finisher like this, but Indurain has got Museeuw. Miguel Indurain is going to get the silver medal. No, Museeuw's coming back, but he's not. And I think, in fact, Museeuw pipped there by Olaf Ludwig for 3rd place. But Miguel Indurain, the winner of the Tour of Italy and the Tour of France, has taken the silver medal. But there is John Hendershot in the Stetson, who is the masseur of the Motorola team. and he can't believe it either. But Lance Armstrong can now. He is the world champion at 21 years of age. We had a 19-year-old win the amateur title, and now we have a 21-year-old take home the gold medal for the United States. He's a Texan, but he lives in Italy when he lives over in Europe. And then the sprint again here for second place. With Johan Museeuw, normally a great sprint finish. He won the Tour of Flanders when he was the champion of Belgium earlier this year. But this time, Miguel Indurain, perhaps a little bit annoyed at losing the title because he wanted all three for the year, has made sure he's got the silver medal, and that is a fabulous finish by him. Now watch the race here for second of these two, because that's Olaf Ludwig, the 1998 Seoul Olympics road race champion when he was an amateur, coming up very, very quickly. And indeed, Museeuw had missed out. He gets fourth and Ludwig gets the bronze. And there it is again, a runaway for Indurain for second. Not much in it though for Ludwig over Museeuw. And the fifth place, by the way, was taken by Maurizio Fondras. There is Lynn Armstrong, and she said her son was going to win yesterday. She was right. And there is the result. We'll make wonderful reading today in America. Lance Armstrong, the new world champion, ahead of Miguel Indurain. He beat a class field, didn't he? Olaf Ludwig third, Johan Museeuw fourth, Fondrias fifth, and Andre Schmiel sixth place. And the medal, the gold medal, he could never have thought he would win this in his first year as a professional. Presented by Werner Gerner of Germany. And Lance Armstrong is the world champion and the rainbow jersey to hang on his bedpost tonight. Well, he applauds Miguel Indurain, the great winner, the emphatic winner of the last three Tours de France and indeed the last two Tours of Italy. But he was denied the triple crown of all three big titles in the same year. He takes second place. And so, as Olaf Ludwig for Germany takes the third place on the podium, these have been a marvellous series of championships over 2 weeks here in Norway. 16 world champions have been crowned, and on the very last day, in a wet Oslo, the new champion of the world is Lance Armstrong of America. From Phil Liggett in Norway, goodbye.